This is Bad Movies We Love, part of the Shice Podcast Network.
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Hello, Bad Movie lovers, and welcome back to a new episode of Bad Movies We Love. Per the usual, I am your host, Nick Scheist.
The master of this stupid stuff!
As SupeTember continues, we are ratcheting up the intensity. Now, if you're anything like me, and if you're listening to this, then you probably are, you love your trash with treasure buried inside, so you're in the right place. So before we get to the episode, just do me a solid. If you like what you hear, if you like the show, if you listen to the show and you want to help support the show, make sure that you follow, subscribe, whatever you got to do on your podcast platform so that you don't miss an episode, because we have a long list of movies to get through. You can also help out a lot by leaving a rating and a review on your podcast platform of choice, especially if you've ever come across one of the movies that we're covering here on the show and said, wait a second, this movie rules, because those reviews help more weirdos like us find the show. And if you really, really want to support the show, you can join the Resistance members only at badmovieswelove.captivate.fm/support. For a measly $5 a month, you'll get access to the two current bonus series, Baimon Sci-Fi Con and Bad Movie Futures. And as an added members-only perk, you'll be automatically entered to win in every giveaway. You'll get a welcome sticker pack, and you'll get an invite to the members-only Discord server where you can just talk with me about bad movies, good movies, honestly, whatever you want. It's a pretty good return on your investment for just $5, and that money helps go towards things like buying music for the show, and I buy that music from real artists selling their music in the marketplace, so you're not just helping me as an independent creator, you're helping them as well. Thank you for listening. I've got another great episode on deck for you today, and it's probably more timely and more prescient than ever, as I was joined once again by my friend Darragh McGrath, who you've heard before on our Drop Dead Fred and Return to Oz episodes, and he joined me this time to talk about a movie that was very important to him as a young lad, and in pulling at that thread, we actually found a lot more meat on the bone than was probably anticipated. We're talking Danny Cannon's 1995 Judge Dredd.
Yeah, so this is the movie that broke my heart in a lot of ways.
The Ben-Hur of comic book movies.
It's the most confusing thing you could say to somebody right before you throw them off a statue.
Where'd that oil come from? Who oiled you up while they were hanging you there, Sly?
I was losing focus at that point.
In what world is Armand Assante the clone of Sylvester Stallone?
I am the chaos. I am the law.
They were partners, and they didn't even know that they were brothers.
A Coen Brothers Judge Dredd movie would be one of the most insane things I could possibly imagine.
He's a sitting duck out there.
He knows what he's doing.
I am the law. Drop your weapon. These plugs are under arrest. This is your final order. It's just Dredd. Hey, you want to be afraid of somebody? Be afraid of me.
Darragh, welcome back to the show. It's been quite a while. What was the last time you were here? Was that for Drop Dead Fred?
Well, we did Drop Dead Fred first, and then we did Return to Oz. That was the last time.
That's
That
right,
was a
Return
few
to Oz.
months ago, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I think
movie.
that was at the end of maybe last year when I was doing
Yeah, I
the
think so.
adventure series. So it's been a while, but you're back and you're here for another like big adventure. Well, adventure I think is a little bit generous in terms of this film.
He goes on an adventure. Yeah.
It is a
He
big
leaves the city
movie.
for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go
And then comes
outside the walls and then they're back. But
Yeah.
because it's been a little while, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce the movie that we're talking about.
Sure. This is the 1995 Sylvester Stallone starring, Danny Cannon directed Judge Dredd, based on the 2000 AD comic character created by John Wagner and Carlos Ezquerra. It's about a future in which all of the world's America's population, North America's population, has been kind of crammed into just mega cities. I think there's like 2 or 3 mega cities. This is basically the East Coast mega city. I think, how many did they say? Did they say 800 million people, or was that the other Dredd movie? I can't remember. I watched them both back to back.
I think that is the actual number from the comic accurate number, but I think in this movie it's like 65 million, which
65 million, which is like, probably less. You know,
I mean, like there's that many people in California right now, basically.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So basically, they're in California. The population of California. You got judges. Instead of cops now, they're judge, jury, executioners, and that's it. And Sylvester Stallone is the biggest judge on the block, Judge Dredd, he's are we getting into we don't have to get into the story, but yeah, that's the basic premise of the movie. Yeah, so he's dispensing law and doing things like that,
dispensing it,
informing everybody that he is the law. Yeah. He's got a big gun. He's got a big bike. He's got a big helmet that he takes off controversially.
Well, you were a big fan of the comic series, if I'm not mistaken, which is how we sort of talked about covering this movie in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is the movie that broke my heart in a lot of ways as a comics fan. I mean, I did like it when I was probably, this came out in 95. I was probably 12 when this movie came out, so I was reading 2000 AD at the time, which is a big, a long running comic serial in Britain, and I was born in Ireland, but yeah, I was reading it there. And Judge Dredd is the character. He's in every issue basically, and then they have other stories as well, but Judge Dredd is their biggest character. This was a big deal for me when it kind of got announced. It came out at the same time as Batman Forever, I think, or the same summer, back when they used to have those big summer blockbuster kind of things. So you had Batman Forever and Judge Dredd were kind of going head to head a little bit. And the Power Rangers movie was also released at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, because I saw the end of that when I went to see this in the cinema.
That's a tough weekend.
I think it lost against Power Rangers. Probably, to be honest. Batman Forever, I think it already come out. That was the one with the Riddler, and Jim Carrey is the Riddler.
Yeah. So it's a very different experience for you. I think myself included, with probably the majority of the American audience, were not really aware of the comic book or the history of the character. Sylvester Stallone himself had never heard of Judge Dredd until he signed the contract and they drove a truck full of $15 million to his house. So, I mean, I'm not surprised he took the role, but I feel like that's a very different style of comic book adaptation than we've seen recently. Because it's like, say what you want to say about Ryan Reynolds. If you love him or hate him, you don't like the Deadpool stuff. Like, he championed for that character for a long time. Like, he was a fan of the comics. He wanted to bring it to the screen. We've seen that, I think, with some other comic stories more recently about people who are super invested. Like Henry Cavill was like very much into the Warhammer game, and now he's starring in Warhammer. So you're seeing more of the people sort of really using their leverage or whatever kind of pull they have in Hollywood to get the kind of projects that are passion projects greenlit for them. And this was kind of like the opposite of that, except for Danny Cannon. He was a fan of the comic, right? Yeah. And he really wanted to make this movie a certain way. And then the addition of Sylvester Stallone sort of began to erode at the ideas that were presented by Cannon.
Yeah, I think Danny Cannon, actually, interestingly, he used to read 2000 AD because you used to be able to send in drawings when you were kids and stuff like that, and so they published a drawing from him when he was like 12 or 13 or something, and it's a movie poster of Judge Dredd. So he'd obviously had it in his mind for a while, but I think he was like a full long-term fan who wanted to do as accurate a movie as possible, considering the budget and everything like that. Once Sylvester Stallone gets involved, you've got a you've got a Sylvester Stallone movie, not a Judge Dredd movie. That's basically, and that's kind of what happens with this movie, is that you've got Sylvester Stallone, who's probably, I don't know if it's the biggest time of in his career, but he's pretty big at that point. I mean, he's done, I think Cliffhanger came out the year before, and
Yeah.
there was another one that
Daylight was like the year after.
Daylight was the year
maybe.
after, or like around the same time. But he's riding high, basically, where he can open a movie and it makes a certain amount of money. You know, he's not doing Schwarzenegger numbers probably at this point. But
his attachment to the project was
Demolition Man was the other one.
Demolition Man was like 90,
which actually has a lot of in common with Judge Dredd.
It has a ton, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like 93 or 94. So it's like, yeah, Sly was not quite the guy that he was in the 80s Rocky era.
Well, he didn't have to,
He wasn't quite that level, but I think those movies had sort of earned him a reputation as a star and a bankable star, where attaching him to the project, they know they needed somebody with a name, which was, it's very interesting to see the like Dredd, the reboot, I guess, and how that addresses sort of all of these issues, and that it really, at least from my understanding, takes it back more to the core of the comics, the core of the character. Carl Urban is not Sylvester Stallone. The studio is not insistent that we see Stallone's face because we're paying $15 million for him. So you get to have the character like keep his helmet on. And it had been probably, I don't know, a handful of years after that movie came out, and I was interested and I hadn't watched it. And then people kept telling me that it was good. And so I finally watched it, I think last year, and I wasn't like super enamored with it, but I can understand that for fans of Dredd that had been wanting to like see the proper version of that. Yeah. That it's I think big success.
I think it does a good job of nailing the characters, and I don't love the Dredd movie either, the 2012 one. I think it's a lot. I actually just watched it again just right after this because I was let's see what happens. And there's a lot of weird similarities. There's even the same shot where he gets off the bike and the bike stand is there and his boot goes down. And it's like, oh, it's the same shot. But it does a better job of the character. I don't think it does a better job of the world necessarily because it's so contained, because it doesn't have the budget. And that's the thing. It's like you've got an actor who's not showing his face. You've got, stay true to the character, but you just don't have the budget anymore to do Mega City 1. And Judge Dredd without Mega City 1, you need both those things really to align. But that requires a massive budget, which means you got to have a star, which means you got to show their face. Maybe these days you could do it. I don't know if you could get a big enough actor who was willing to do it. I think you could do it. But there aren't many actors who are probably willing to do that. So it's kind of tough. Yeah.
So, I mean, as a fan of the comic material, do you feel like maybe animated film would be the best way to really represent this world? And then like, you don't have to build the sets. Like you can actually tell the story you want to tell, because there's the thing with like the DC universe and the struggles with their sort of like Henry Cavill and the Snyderverse and all that stuff. The DC, like the Warner Company, has produced really solid animated films for them for a long time. I don't know that I've ever seen one of the animated films where I thought, oh, this was bad. There's some that are not as good as others, but for the most part, I've really found them all entertaining. And then with, I think, X-Men 97 becoming really popular last year, I think there might be sort of a push back to like maybe sort of animated is the best available option for telling these types of character stories, to eliminate a lot of the variables that lead us down the road of Sylvester Stallone in this movie.
Yeah, for sure. I think an animated one would actually work. And you've got, in the comics, you always had these different artists who were kind of given a lot of freedom to not redesign the character, but they had their own takes on the character. So you have Carlos Ezquerra was the Spanish artist. He created the look of him, and he's supposed to be based on like a Spanish conquistador, or like the fascist Franco cops and stuff like that. And then you had Brian Boland, who had Brian Boland you might be familiar with from if you've read DC comics in the 80s and 90s. He did a lot of covers for like he did the Killing Joke artwork and stuff like that. And he had a very clean line, and it looked very kind of more realistic. And then you had Mick McMahon, who had the big boots, and he is a bit more stylized. And there was a bunch of different artists who've done their take on Dredd. With an animated movie or TV show, you could do that. You could have slightly different kind of vibes, different tones. There's talk of a TV show for a long time. There's been talk of a TV show where because the company who owns 2080 and Judge Dredd now are Rebellion. It was Fleetway at the time, which was a UK publishing giant. But now it's owned by Rebellion, who make video games. I think they play Sniper Elite or something like that. They make some I don't know. They make some successful games. Anyways, first person shooters. I don't play them, but they haven't even made like video games off of Judge Dredd, which you would think, is this not like an ideal kind of video game? You've got the world is there, the characters are there, the setup is there. It's lots of different types of guns, all that kind of stuff. And they've never made the video game either. So I don't know. I mean, they have money, so I think they do like the character. They do care about the character of Rebellion. So they obviously want to. They're very protective. Maybe too protective. I don't know. Yeah. They're not. They're making the Rogue Trooper movie. The Rogue Trooper movie is coming out soon, so we'll see if that works. It probably won't, but we'll see if it works. Yeah.
I believe there was like a Super Nintendo SNES.
I had it. Yeah,
Dredd.
there was a Super Nintendo.
There was a
game.
licensed game, so it was a game that was part of the movie, not a standalone game that's really meant to like flesh out the character and the world.
I had the game. It was good. It was all right. I still have it somewhere. Yeah. And then there was a Dredd versus Death game in the early 2000s or late 90s.
Interesting.
Which I think a lot of people quite liked. I never played it. I think it might have just been on PC. I'm not sure if it was on other things at all.
Interesting.
But Dredd versus Death was a first-person shooter, and I've heard people like that a lot. So you could even remaster it, but they haven't done that. Yeah.
No. All right. Well, let me get through some details here of this. You already mentioned that, of course, this is Danny Cannon. The screenplay was by William Wisher and Stephen E. D'Souza, who his name's popped up on several different episodes of this show, much to his chagrin. I'm sure, yes. The story was by Michael DeLuca and William Wisher. Characters originally by John Wagner and Carlos Ezquerra. And then, as we mentioned, star Sylvester Stallone, the completely unhinged Armand Assante, Diane Lane, Rob Schneider, Max von Sydow, and Jürgen Prochnow, who, I mean, as soon as you see him in the movie, it's like, well, this is clearly a bad guy, right? They make him so German. And then we also get Joan Chen and Balthazar Getty, who is
young Balthazar.
Yeah, he was in Brothers and Sisters, which is the show that my wife and I were watching for the other podcast. So it has a big cast, obviously. Invested financially into its cast, but also at a movie that's 90 minutes ish. There's a lot that falls through the cracks in terms of the other judges, and at least from what I was reading, a lot of the sort of texture of these other characters and why they're important was more so just like reduced to a person in a chair with a title.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in seeing, like, in hearing how you saw, like, did you get the world? Did you get the characters in terms of, like, the setup and stuff like that? Like, what the judges are? Because even all the council guys, like Max von Sydow and stuff like that, they're named after characters in the comics. So there's a little bit of, like, that's Magruder, that's Griffin. They all became chief judges eventually in the comic. They're different here, but yeah, I would be interested. Was it just like, this is just like a sci-fi version of the courts, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that when I was younger and watching it, probably primarily for the reason that Sylvester Stallone was at the lead of this action movie, I never really like took the context of the world into it. that much. You know, I feel like the movie doesn't do a ton of explaining. There's an opening crawl that gives you enough expo to.
It's a very long crawl.
You get enough expo to kind of like understand what the world has become. But once you're sort of in it, I think that storytelling just kind of ends in favor of a set design and being very like Stallone centric, right? So it takes what the movie could be, and then when you start watching it, it just like dilutes into a Stallone buddy comedy. And
yeah, I think that's the biggest issue with the film, is that it's, and you know, that's obviously what's going to happen when you cast Sylvester Stallone in the mid 90s, especially. But Stallone is the problem with the movie as much as anything else, because he seems to be doing something completely different than maybe what some, because like the rest of the cast are pretty good. Max von Sydow is good, but the character is supposed to be, basically it's supposed to be a satire on like authoritarianism and fascism and stuff, and there's none of that. I mean, unsurprisingly, there's none of that in their big budget Hollywood movie.
Yeah,
but you're not going to get too much of it. You could, but I mean, RoboCop did it, and RoboCop was basically a Judge Dredd knockoff. I mean, they wanted to get the rights to Judge Dredd, they couldn't get them, so they made RoboCop. But that script and all the like the media stuff and all the ads, that is a closer depiction of Judge Dredd than the Judge Dredd movie. I would say RoboCop.
Yeah, well, it seemed like once the rights were secured for Judge Dredd, they had to sort of let RoboCop sort of fade off into the distance a little bit. Yeah. And just like RoboCop is such a good movie. It's so well written, like the acting, everything is just dialed in. And even though there's moments of it that are sort of like really crazy heightened reality, like melting a guy with toxic waste and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, I think the satire in RoboCop is so sharp and apparent, and it leads with that, and it's not afraid to be rated R, and it's not afraid to take those swings. And I think with someone like Verhoeven at the helm, that's what his currency is. That's like what he does. So it works in that situation. And here, I think to your point, the kind of like the negative identity of the very clearly authoritarian force of judges is like not mentioned almost.
It's not even commented on.
No, we need this. Yeah.
This
Crime is bad. Judges are good. I'm like, ugh.
I mean, they're trying to do sci-fi Dirty Harry is basically what they're kind of going for, is that like not that he takes the law into his own hands, because he used the law, but the fact that he tries to, the fact that he can just do whatever he wants, like he blows up the guy's car who like parks badly or whatever. But I do think you need someone like Verhoeven. You need someone with you need a director with I actually think Daddy Cannon did a pretty good job. Like some of the shots are really good. The script is a problem and Stallone's a problem, but that's to a degree. I don't know how much control he had over that. But like in terms of the actual like, especially the first half, I think he does a pretty good job with like just shooting the scenes. You can see that he cares a little bit. You can see, especially in the opening of the film, you can see that he gives a damn. He's trying to make a good movie.
I don't think it's a bad looking movie at all. And I think that's sort of one of its saving graces, is that it does. I mean, obviously sort of it looks like Blade Runner at times, right? They make sure that everything's wet. They were filming in England. So like, if it rains, whatever, like we're just going to make sure it's juicy outside all the time.
Yeah.
And so the identity of like wanting to build Mega City 1, wanting to sort of give texture to that world, the costuming, the motorcycle, the cars, all that. I feel like all of that stuff really works. And then for most of what I've read is that Stallone, because of who he is and I guess his ability to influence the outcome of the film, was very involved in script rewrites, in changing the identity. And I mean, when you look at something like Demolition Man, and granted that movie also has been featured on this show, so that it wasn't like an overwhelming success, but was successful. And I think he wants to lean into what made that movie work, which was kind of like the satire was there, but it was a little bit more attainable humor within the context of what they're doing, right? They pair him with a guy who like listens to commercials. You know, you got Huxley in that, and Sandra Bullock's character is very sort of like ditzy, but also smart. And so you give him something to play off of. And so wanting to have Rob Schneider be in this movie, like, no offense to Rob Schneider, he's a good comedic actor. He's been in a lot of stuff. Whatever's going on with him now is irrelevant. But he, in this movie, just like, if you could like take a magic eraser and just like scrub his existence from this movie, I feel like it's just a better movie because it doesn't need to be there.
It almost feels like he was inserted after the movie was shot sometimes.
Yeah.
And it kind of like, oh, we need somebody to like, you know, do a comedic line at some point in the movie. I remember he's been the butt of the joke for a lot of like people who like Judge Dredd but hate this movie. I rewatching it recently, I was like, especially in the first half of the movie, he didn't bother me too much. It was like, okay, he's just like the man on the street. You do have characters in the strip who are like that, where he just takes a random guy, plucks him out, and he's like gets involved in with the judges and stuff like that. So it becomes way more apparent in the second half when literally every single thing that happens, it cuts to Rob Schneider and he does a joke. That's what happens in the second half of the movie. In the first half of the movie, there's a little bit of that, but it's not as annoying. But by the end, by the third act is just like they've turned it into a different thing. And it's like, it's all the clones, and it's just like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they went. And then it's just, you have to keep cutting to him for comedic relief. And the stuff I didn't mind the stuff at the start when he gets taken hostage and he hides in which I thought was cool, when he hides in the little, the droid, the cleaning droid, or a junk food droid. And, you know, and it was like recycled food is, good for the environment and okay for you.
Yeah,
I thought that was a pretty good line. Well, that's very 2000 AD.
Well,
that's cool. Yeah,
the Fergie character, right, in the comics is not this kind of sort of like comic relief, right? He lives underground. He's
in one story. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And then he's in one story from like the early 80s. And that's that. But he was a well-loved character because people just thought he was funny. He was basically a Neanderthal man who lived in so they've paved over New York City, and that's what Mega City 1 is. So underneath Mega City 1 is New York City, and he was living there. And that's it was kind of in Demolition Man. They do a little bit where he goes into under the city and they eat the rats and stuff. That was basically in 2080. Yeah.
And so, if you're Judge Dredd, like, damn it, like RoboCop already exists, Demolition Man already exists. Like, how do we create our world? Blade Runner already exists. What do we do to differentiate ourselves from these properties that have already maybe even done the idea that we want to do and done it better? Right? Do
you think they were trying to differentiate themselves, or were they trying to latch onto those things? I mean, to a degree, it feels like they were just trying to be all those things at once, and that's why it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, so I think if you look at Danny Cannon, right, he wants to make Dredd. Stallone is a Hollywood guy who got paid a lot of money, who wants to make a successful Hollywood movie. And so why not latch onto all the things that are already successful? Like, his mere attachment to the project in and of itself is an endorsement of that ideology of let's just attach a big star from another action franchise, get him in here. Like Rob Schneider at the time in the mid 90s was probably at the height of his sort of acting career. So he too, just him in the movie is like, well, we know what Rob Schneider does. We're not bringing him in to only use his namesake. We want the personality that he has succeeded with using in other films to be in this. Because it's like, I think the natural progression of a story like those two characters is like Judge is or Dredd is like very stone-faced, very stoic all the time, like doesn't really have emotions, or he has them and he just like kind of buries them. And then you have Schneider, who's like the complete opposite side. He lives on the street. He sees the world from the bottom up, and Judge Dredd sees it from the top down. And so between the two of them, what should sort of happen is Dredd begins to learn from the person who lives on the streets that maybe the judges are like corrupt and maybe he's like not seeing, maybe his worldview is wrong. And then Schneider should be less comedic relief as the movie goes on, because he's spending more time with Dredd, and it's like he doesn't always have to be disarming the situation with humor. So you would sort of expect them to like be going towards the middle, but instead like they just use it for like punctuated moments between the two of them. And then like neither of them seem to learn anything really from the other. And it's just like Rob Schneider has to get in a one-liner at the end of the movie about being a better kisser. And it's like, what is happening? He doesn't even,
Judge Dredd doesn't even, he has that one line where he's like, I've never said sorry or something like that. He doesn't even apologize.
I don't apologize.
It's like I thought that you would at least, you're building up to a moment here where you apologize. But I feel like the whole third act is a disaster. The whole third act is like this Hollywood fix where they've just come in and they've almost reshot stuff and they've re-edited it, and it just feels like rewatching it recently. It was more apparent to me that it just felt like the second half of the movie was a completely, like, not a completely different movie, but that they were trying to fix something that maybe shouldn't have been fixed. Maybe it should have just been let. Danny Cannon should have had a little bit more say in it, because to what you're saying, like, I think they had I thought they had a lot of kind of interesting ingredients. And I thought that if you're making a movie of this size and this stature, you're making like the right moves. You've got the guy on the street, you've got the judge, you team them up. There's a lot of like potential there for it to work out. You get to see the world from both sides. You get to see how the judges work. You get to see how the city works. And it should all kind of, and the comics has done that plenty of times too. So it's like, it should all work. It's just everything goes wrong for some reason, and the reason is Sylvester Stallone, probably. So.
I think so. I mean, at least from everything that I could gather was that the movie didn't want to be rated R. The idea was to have it be PG-13 and be palatable. And then the way that it
back in those days, that was not a possibility really to have if you were rated R, you could only hit a certain box office. That was kind of the thinking. Nowadays with Deadpool and stuff, that's been thrown out. But back then it was like, if you had a rated R movie, you're putting a ceiling on your profits. And for a movie of this size, they're not going to do that. So the Batman movies were PG. They did this much money. So what's wrong with you doing PG for this?
Yeah. And there was an effort, like a concerted effort, to get it down to PG-13. And I think Stallone had like a filming conflict or something, so he was like unable to come back and refilm some things. So it was like trimming what we already have, but not being able to reshoot enough to satisfy the studio. And then it ultimately, I think, ends up being rated R anyway. So it's like this concerted effort. So. It is. It's R.
In where I was, maybe I think it was 15s. Which is a rating they don't have anymore. But I guess the equivalent of PG-13 or whatever is now. Do they still have PG-13? I don't even know what the ratings are. I think it says 15 on the thing right behind you, actually. So that's
on this poster,
Or is that Judge Dredd is Sylvester Stallone? I think that's an is.
That's a 15 for each million that he got to make this movie.
Yeah, because it's not like particularly violent movie. I mean, well, there's a headbutt, which the rating people always hated. Headbutts.
There's some people that just get shot down. There's a lot of them that die.
Gory though.
Yeah, it's not gory.
The new one was gory.
There's not a ton of profanity. So at least strategically, it seems like, hey, this is the idea. It's a rated R character. It's a rated R world. We're okay with that. And then studio's like, no, well, we want PG-13, so you need to tone it down. Stallone wants to up the comedy to help with that. And then they just like run out of time and Stallone's not around. But I think you can actually like sort of like, if you, with the benefit of hindsight, of course, in watching the movie, you can sort of see it trying to squeeze the world into like a palatable PG-13 world. And like, it feels like it basically is a PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
But there's just probably a few too many murders.
Yeah. I think it's like either you just make the kids movie and you just go that route and to hell with the kind of fans or whatever, or you make the fan version or you make the rated R version. And I think this movie tried to maybe appeal to all of them. And frankly, the Judge Dredd fan base isn't that big, really, so they didn't really need to. But the director was a fan, so that probably was what it was. And Danny Cannon. I don't think he made many movies after this. I think he created CGI CSI.
Did he? Wow,
I think so.
That's a big creation.
I think he created some TV show that like is massive.
I mean, he's a producer, so I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
I think he produced one of those kind of serialized cop shows.
Wow,
and it became pretty big. Yeah,
that's interesting. But
yeah,
he did not have a good time with this project. When Sylvester Stallone's basically like kicking you out of the film, and I don't know if it's true or not, but one of the little notes was that they didn't even let him be there for a lot of the reshoots. So at that point, Stallone has hijacked the movie and is reshooting.
And he's in the editing room.
Yeah, it's a very 80s action star. Like Jean-Claude Van Damme did that stuff. Like this is just the egomaniacal power of being an action star. And I know better. Like I'm going to remake the movie without the director kind of thing Stallone is a filmmaker. So I think,
he made Rocky, which is great.
Yes, he's made a couple things.
Yeah. But I think he made Rambo, which is, the first Rambo isn't as much of an action movie, but did he make Rambo First Blood Part 2 or was that somebody else? That was probably somebody else. Yeah.
He made Rocky 4, I think, also.
Yeah.
Which is a music video.
A series of montages.
Yeah. Look, but for an 80s movie, that's on brand. Yeah.
Yeah. But allegedly the same thing happened with the 2012 Dredd movie, which is that Alex Garland wrote it. Pete Travis, I think, directed it. And there was, they've all been very polite about it, but there was talk that there was reshoots and that Alex Garland actually re-edited it himself or did some editing on it and did some work on it and kind of took the movie over to the point where some people call it his first movie. But both of them have been very polite and they don't snap at each other or anything like that. So he's always said it's not his movie. So interesting. But it's interesting that has happened again with the next iteration of the movie where almost the same thing happened except it was the reverse where the fan took over and guided the rest of the movie. Because Alex Garland, I think, was
excuse me,
a fan as well.
It seems like something that would be a good fit for like a streaming platform original because there's not the same pressure of like, it has to have X amount of ratings by a certain point. I think you could take the time to make the world, make the characters, just take your time and do things slowly so that you don't have to cram everything into one episode, right? You can really go about it at a healthy pace. I did
think that HBO or someone like that, like post Game of Thrones there was some talk about it, I think, where they were like shopping it around and they were like maybe HBO or Netflix, who went back when Netflix was willing to give money to literally anybody and they still wouldn't give money to Judge Dredd. But I think they were trying to get like a TV show made and there was some talk of Apple or Amazon doing it as well because you can do that episodic thing where you can change the tone, you can change the viewpoint, you don't always have to have it. And then you've got the judges being the kind of that'd be the Game of Thrones political intrigue part, and then you have the action stuff, the street stuff. So it is kind of perfect for like a TV show if you're willing to spend a lot of money on it. And I think, it's a little easier to make megas. I mean, if you've seen those Star Wars shows, I mean, those things are all done on green screen, and I think it looks pretty bad most of the time. But people seem to be okay with it. People seem to be fine watching Andor and stuff, and
Andor just won the Emmy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was good, but it was also like I was watching and being like, it's clearly they're just in front of green screens, and it's like there's very little, physical stuff anymore. It seems, but like it's still good show, and you could definitely make a Judge Dredd show like that, where you're just everything is computer generated in the background, basically,
or animated. Like we said, I think there's a different appetite now for that kind of stuff, and I think a proven method with
I think they were trying to make
being successful.
They were trying to make an animated thing for a while with who's that producer? Is it Avi Shankar or something like that? And he's kind of dressed like a goth. I don't know. He's done a few movies anyway. He's like a goth producer, and he had some sort of like Judge Death, Judge Dredd versus Judge Death idea for animated movie. I might be getting that wrong, but yeah, I know that there was some kind of proof of concept thing released.
Interesting.
Where he was trying to get it made. Yeah, he's trying to get some funding and didn't. Yeah.
Well,
Who do you think could have directed this movie and made it like more successful? Do you think that it has to be like a director who's got a bigger ego um, than who can control Sylvester Stallone? Because who do you have? You got James Cameron. You got guys like that who can just like be like, this is my movie. I'm doing it the way I want to do it.
I mean, I think Cameron sort of walks that line between styles where it might have worked for a movie like this. Obviously, like Ridley Scott having done Blade Runner, having done sci-fi stuff, having just like no patience for, I think, the kind of behavior that Stallone would have exhibited.
Ridley Scott was a 2000 AD fan. I think he read 2000 AD when it first started. Yeah. And so, but at that point, maybe not.
Probably Verhoeven too, because like he's a no nonsense kind of guy. And I mean, like the stories I've heard from him on set are insane. So I don't think that he sort of would have been afraid of Sylvester Stallone in that way.
I think Sly probably could have gotten him fired though. I don't think.
Yeah, well, that's probably.
I don't
true.
think that would have worked out. Yeah, the other one I was like George Miller would have been great. With George Miller, like at that time, I think he was making Babe around then. But I mean, he's been known to make Happy Feet and Mad Max, so he can do two things at once. I think he was the most suited to direct this movie, to be honest, because I was thinking about it yesterday. It's like who could have done a good job with this? And Verhoeven had already done it, so he can't. Cameron was probably too big. He's making Titanic. And he's moving away from the kind of. Well, not really, but he's made Terminator 2. Yeah, he's done it. Like he's like, is it going to be bigger than Terminator 2? No, so I don't need to. Yeah,
that's.
But
fair.
I think George Miller would have been good. Richard Stanley, if he'd been like, Richard Stanley made a movie called Hardware that was based on a 2080 story. I think he got sued actually by 2080, but these guys were kind of had the right sort of vibe. I think. They could get that kind of comic book vibe, similar to like Sam Raimi kind of had that vibe too, where he would have. I don't know if he wouldn't have been able to do Judge Dredd, but just that kind of it's almost cartoonish, but also like in the real world,
Yeah, could have done like Michael Bay or something.
Yeah, Michael Bay probably would have just been like, "Yes, Sylvester."
He's like,
let's blow more stuff up, though. Yeah,
more,
and he would have made it look
grenades.
good. But I think, yeah. Could the gun just fire grenades only?
Yeah. All right, let's go to the tail of the tape because we need to figure out why. Well, we know why, but we need to make it crystal clear why this movie is being featured on the show. It has an IMDb score of 5.6. It has a Rotten Tomatoes critic score
average
of 21%.
Oh, that's not great.
No. Audience score of 31%, letterbox of 2.6, and a Google users review of 84%. So
okay.
I feel like the more that I do
5
this,
people on Google user.
Hey, 5 out of 6. But I feel like Google.
That's me.
User
that was my
reviews,
5 stars.
Google user reviews are very generous in that they're sort of like me. It's like, just do you like the movie or do you not like it? And for me, like I like most things because it's just a thumb up or thumbs down metric. So it's not really like critical
at
score.
this point, if you're watching the movie, you want to watch the movie. Because Google didn't exist when this movie came out.
Exactly.
And Letterboxd is interesting because again, it is people who are kind of basically seeking it out to watch it.
Yeah.
And that gives the more modern opinion, I guess, of like, where does this movie stand these days as opposed to where it stood in 1995 when it was released. So 2.6 isn't great either, but I mean, it's kind of spot on.
It's right in the middle. It's a little bit above.
Kind of a 2.6 movie.
It's a little bit above halfway, but that gives us a Bad Movies We Love total score of 48.8 out of 100. And even when looking for the reviews, usually I use the Metacritic scoreboard and just use that as my reference when I'm reading for Critics Corner. But for this, there's no Metascore. Metacritic didn't even bother with Judge Dredd, so I had to go like to Rotten Tomatoes and pull reviews from those critics. And the funny thing about that is all of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes are from the year 2000 or later. So there's not any of them that were written at the time of the movie's release. So it's like where people just like, we can't be bothered to even mention that Judge Dredd exists.
I remember reading the reviews when the movie came out because obviously I was a big fan and I wanted the film to do well, and I don't remember them being universally bad. And I think most people have reviewed them as like they reviewed it as a Sylvester Stallone movie. It was basically they were like, does it tick the boxes of a Sylvester Stallone movie? And I think the general consensus was yes, it does, but it's not good.
Is there a scene where they rip his sleeves off to show his muscular arms? Check.
I think.
Is he in a tank top? Check. Is he greasy for some reason? Check.
Yeah, which he does do. Yeah. And I think that the big problem the fans had was when he took off the helmet, which was is sacrilege. But there was a lot of controversy about that. People wrote it off right from then on in, and the I am the law, the constant catchphrasing that he does. What is it? I knew you would say that, which he's never said in the comic, but he says it like 20 times in the movie. Yeah. And even at one point, one of the characters makes fun of him, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. At least the character is fucking acknowledging that it's stupid. But yeah. And what was the thing he says at the end? Case adjourned or something. Court's adjourned. When he pulls armor into and I was like, that doesn't even make sense in the context of the world because there are no courts. You wouldn't be adjourning anything. It's the most confusing thing you could say to somebody right before you throw them off a statue. So it's like, yeah.
This is what I want my clone to be feeling. I want him to be confused as he plummets to his death.
I don't want. Yeah, I mean, yeah. We don't even need to get into the clone. Well, we
are going to get into the clones, but before we get there,
sorry, the reviews. Yeah.
I'm gonna set the table. We'll do a little behind the scenes sort of production notes for the movie. So before production began, producer Edward Pressman had the script rewritten, and several major directors, including Rennie Harlan and Richard Donner, were actually considered before Danny Cannon was hired. He was a lifelong Judge Dredd fan, and he turned down another big picture, which we'll get to later, to direct this movie, calling his vision of Judge Dredd the Ben-Hur of comic book movies. So keep that in mind. Casting went through its own evolution, as Arnold Schwarzenegger was considered early on before Stallone landed the role, despite having never heard of the character. And Danny Cannon pursued Joe Pesci for the role of Fergie, but he actually declined, and that's how Rob Schneider became involved. To sell their genetic family connection, Stallone and co-star Armand Assante wore matching blue contact lenses, with Assante mimicking Stallone's speech patterns.
Is that what's happening with Armand Assante in this movie?
I don't know.
Yes, I was like, they're both Italian American.
I wish. I mean, with what Armand Assante is already doing in this movie, I wish he was doing a Stallone impersonation the entire film, because that would just be
Google him and be like, "What's his background?" Because I was like, "What is this accent? Is he Israeli? Like, what is the, what is this? Where's this man from?" And I was like, I thought he was American, and I was like, what is this strange accent that he's doing needlessly?
Yeah. Well, the film's production was led by Nigel Phelps, with Peter Young as set director and Leslie Tompkins as supervising art director. And Stallone personally recruited Gianni Versace to design Dredd's futuristic costume, which went through several versions before the final look was approved. Special effects were handled by Douglas Trumbull's Massive Illusion, with additional work from multiple effects houses. Chris Cunningham created the prosthetics for Mean Machine. And instead of using a man in a suit for the ABC Warrior, Cannon insisted on a fully animatronic build operated by 5 puppeteers. And I think that part at least looks really good. I'm glad that they did that practically. Yeah.
The ABC Warrior.
Yeah. Filming took place at Shepperton Studios in England and on location in Iceland, keeping the production in the UK, the birthplace of Judge Dredd. The music was just as chaotic behind the scenes. David Arnold was originally slated to score. Then it was Jerry Goldsmith who took over before scheduling conflicts forced him out. And then Alan Silvestri ultimately composed the score, recording with Sinfonia of London, and he later revised cues in Hollywood. The soundtrack also features music from The Cure, White Zombie, and others, and The Cure's Dread song is the one that actually closes out the film. But when it comes to the film's release, Dredd had to be recut 5 times just to avoid an NC-17 rating. And studio pressure for a PG-13 cut led to many deleted scenes, toned down violence, and the shift towards comedy. So director Danny Cannon later said that the final cut was nothing like the darker satirical film that he envisioned. And at the box office, it underperformed domestically, earning $34.7 million in North America, but fared better overseas with $78.8 million, giving it a worldwide gross of $113 million against a approximately $90 million budget. So just barely clawed back enough to say that they made money.
Yeah. Minus marketing, I guess. I mean, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting about the cuts. There must be a Danny Cannon cut. I mean, if they have, if he seemed to imply that they have the material, the footage, and then it got recut using different footage or whatever. So he seems to be implying that his version of the movie exists in some capacity.
Yeah,
or
locked
could
in
exist.
Stallone's basement or something. Yeah, we're gonna get this from me. But yeah, 17.
But this must have like an NC-17. Like where's that? There's no nudity. There's no sex.
It must have been really violent. It must have been really violent.
We need to get like Arrow or some. Arrow seems like the kind of crowd who would release this. You know, they're doing Spawn, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, they just.
There's got to be a Danny Cannon cut, and he's rich now. He's like if I was right about that CSI stuff, that man's got money now. He's got power.
Yeah, buy back those rights, recut.
He should be able to buy back those rights from Stallone. He could make another Rambo or whatever with the money he gives him. Yeah, I mean, and the Versace costumes were just the cod piece in this movie is not okay. That's why I got an NC-17. Probably was like that cod piece. I was like, what is that? That is not unnecessary. That is just not necessary to have that there.
Nobody was paying attention until you did.
The helmet looks pretty cool, and the eagle thing looks pretty cool. Yeah. So
I feel like the costumes are not the issue necessarily.
No.
But the production design, all that stuff is solid. I think it looks the part, and then it just sort of falls apart in like a comedy of errors in other ways. And yeah, if your movie really is, when you sort of first screen it, NC-17, and then it's just nothing but pressure to get it down to a PG-13 rating, like you've got 2 full ratings to get through to get down to having this be, palatable for 13-year-olds. And I think even though it's rated R, you and I both saw it when we were probably like 12, so
12, 13, yeah. And I was reading a comic, which was pretty violent at the time too.
Yeah.
So, and I'd seen RoboCop by then, so
exactly.
I was, and that was violent.
Yeah, this is pretty.
Joe Pesci. Can you imagine Joe Pesci in this movie? Like that would be hilarious. That would have it would have absolutely sunk the movie. It would have been absolutely hilarious to see Joe Pesci in this movie.
I feel like he's probably more capable of doing the kind of role that I think was envisioned, because like Rob Schneider is too Rob Schneider, where like Joe Pesci having the background that he has, sort of being an intimidating figure in so many other movies. I feel like he is more well suited to be a criminal that is like pushing back against Dredd, where Schneider almost feels just like a child in some ways. Like, don't send me to jail. I was just trying to like protect myself.
He's like a bumbling fool kind of character.
Yeah, exactly. Where
I don't think Joe Pesci wouldn't do bumbling fool really.
Yeah, if it's not Home Alone, but even in the Home Alone movies, it's like he's still a pretty like menacing guy.
He's menacing, yeah.
Until the moments where he's getting his ass kicked by a child. So I just feel like Joe Pesci's like sense of humor and also like his just screen presence and his general sort of acting ability would level the playing field with him and Stallone and make for a more interesting dynamic. So I could see why they approached him, but I also see why he would have turned it down.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think
you want this role
to be.
We're also offering it to Rob Schneider. But like, just give it to Rob. That's fine.
if
we're considered for the same role, like this is not the role for me.
Yeah, don't insult me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have to say, I think the Chris Cunningham, who became like a music video director, he did a lot of music videos for Bjork and Aphex Twin, and he did those famous creepy Aphex Twin videos for Come to Daddy and stuff. I think he did a Madonna video too. The Chris Cunningham stuff is really cool. Like the ABC Warrior, which is a different comic book, it's a different comic strip in 2000 AD. They were called the ABC Warriors, and it was by Pat Mills, who was heavily involved in Judge Dredd and 2000 AD when it started. But that looks incredible. I mean, that's Hammerstein is the name of the robot. He looks incredible in this movie, and they built it for real, and it looks great, and it looks better than any CGI looks today. And it's like today, if you made that movie and you put him in it, it would be CGI and it wouldn't look as good. I mean, it looks very real. It looks very practical. He's just basically a brute. But I mean, I thought that was like the most exciting. When I was a kid and I saw that was like the coolest thing. Was that giant working robot that they built.
Yeah, I mean, what's not to love about giant robots? I mean, it's kind of like
should have made a Transformers movie like that.
Yeah. Well, when you go to Universal Studios, they got a guy that's on like stilts in an Optimus Prime suit, and I'm like, yeah, that's passable. Like, they do a good job of that. So you could make a giant animatronic, or you could put a guy in a suit like that and have that be the case. You don't have to CGI the whole thing up, and maybe for the best that this movie stayed as light on CGI as possible, because I think we're still in an era of sort of practical effects where it's worth having those. Like, you didn't have to blow
a lot of it looks good at the start as well. A lot of the city stuff looks really good. The chase scene on the bike looks like one of the worst things.
Zipping around like a matte painting in the background.
Yeah, it looks like when you're actually at a ride at Universal Studios or something. It's like just that is a green screen, sir, or not even a green screen, whatever it was, back projection probably they were using. But that looked like a scene that was like added in almost. Be like, we need to be more exciting. Yeah,
let's have a hover bike chase through the city. It's exciting. I mean,
with
it
Rob
is
Schneider cracking jokes,
right? About shitting himself, right? Or
then he drops him and like picks him. Or I don't know. Yeah. I was losing focus at that point.
Fair enough. Well, let's get focused. Did you prepare a synopsis haiku for this movie?
Oh, I did. Yeah. I struggled with this one because there's a lot of a lot of the words don't work out quite well. So, I did a very basic one, so you're just gonna have to deal with that. Do you want it now?
Yeah.
All right. Mega City 1. Muties, robots, clones, oh my. Now justice for all.
Yeah, it takes us back to Return to Oz there a little bit too.
Return to Oz and a little Metallica reference for you as well. Why not? They're not on the soundtrack, but whatever.
Let's see. I wanted to incorporate something about I am the law, but I just couldn't
or judge, jury, and executioner. Too many syllables.
Too many puns. So the future is bleak. Justice comes with lethal force. The law needs to change. But the law doesn't. I mean, does it? I don't think it actually does change, really. Maybe a little bit.
No, not really.
No. You just put like the most aggressive of the judges in the highest position of power.
Well, he doesn't accept it at the end, which is at least comic accurate. Yeah.
I'm a street judge.
Yeah. So they're just left without a leader, basically, and it all falls apart, presumably. Yeah.
It probably needs to happen, but I'll circle back to that in a little bit, but I want to ask you, so, I think we both know why the movie is bad, but if you had to sort of pin it down to one idea, like, why do you think is widely considered to be a bad movie?
I think it's a combination of Sylvester Stallone not vibing with the material and trying to make a different kind of movie. He wants to be in like a Batman movie, I guess. He wants to have his Batman, where he gets his his franchise, and he gets his one-liners and his catchphrases and his toys. And I think Sylvester Stallone and the way he stands, just as a side thing, but where he starts in the movie,
I have a picture that his hands on show you.
And I'm like, why are you standing like that? Why does nobody stands like this? Anyway, sorry, but that's just, I think Sylvester Stallone was just in a different movie. And it would have been better if it was just either his movie or it was somebody else's movie, but together it didn't work. And then I think all story-wise, I think the movie looks good. and I think the direction is pretty good. But I think story-wise, making it about the clone, all the clone stuff, is just making it about that was like a huge mistake. And I think I preferred it when it was like almost episodic, where they had the second act being the Cursed Earth with the Angel family, who also looked cool. Like Mean Machine looked amazing. I think that was Chris Cunningham again. But once you get back into the city and they start dealing with all the Armand Desante stuff, it's just really bad. And it's like, this is just terrible. And if it had just been about like the framing or the
Can you see this?
What is this? I can unfortunately see this.
Yes.
I mean, I respect
why is he standing
the V.
like that?
I respect the V. I always respect the V.
It's a deep V. But yes, the whole posture in that scene, I think that's why he's getting stared down so awkwardly. Like, why are you standing like that?
Yeah. And they could have just had that outfit instead of the codpiece for the judge. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't just use the belt. Yeah. His arms look good, though. I mean, he's looking fit.
Look, he spends time on those arms.
He wanted to show off.
Yeah.
Or the bit when he's hanging, when he's hanging with his arms up. And it's like, geez.
Where'd that oil come from? Who oiled you up while they were hanging you there, Sly?
Yeah. And he's got a permanent, like, bleeding, like, brow up here. He's constantly bleeding for the whole movie.
Very tough.
Just from that one area. Yeah, very tough guy. Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a look at the trailer. And
he wouldn't have gotten that cut in his head if he was wearing his helmet.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting,
Keep that helmet on, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm interested in seeing the trailer.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while, so curious. You think you can handle the streets of Mega City 1? Think again. But now, at least you'll have a fighting chance. Introducing I Am the Law, the only app that puts instant legal authority literally in the palm of your hand. Designed to empower citizens living under the oppressive overreach of the judges, this app lets you fight back, legally, safely, and in style. The latest updates include Judge Mode, instantly evaluate misdemeanors, felonies, and jaywalking violations with cinematic precision. Street Sweep alerts, so you know when a mutant uprising or hoverbike chase is nearby, because you don't want to get caught in the crossfire. And Citizen Shield, so you can record and report overzealous judges without risking your life. For years, the law was exclusionary, but now you don't have to pass the bar to know your rights. Never fear tyrannical judges again. With I Am the law isn't just on your side, it's in your pocket. Download the I Am the Law app from the App Store today, because justice is in your hands, citizen.
I am the law!
And now, back to the show.
I hope it's got that cool voiceover.
Ooh, quoting Plato.
Max von Sydow and Plato.
As a city, we
It works.
continue to grow. 73 citizen riots.
Come and get us! Throw down your weapons and prepare to be judged! Judge this!
Already a lot of bullets.
Court's adjourned. Dredd, you're a legend. You are my finest student.
Feels very much like Demolition Man so far.
Yeah, so far, very, very. Even the look of it. It's actually quite damaging.
You're under arrest.
What's the charge?
Murder.
The evidence is falsified!
Guilty as charged.
I am the law! I am the law!
You want chaos?
The sentence shall be life imprisonment.
I'm the chaos. Dredd?
Yeah, maybe.
Very crushing power.
Excuse me? We're not together.
It's not for this council to play God.
The amount of explosions and gunfire so far in this trailer is quite a lot.
We're going to war.
You're a lot of fun to be with, Dredd!
Yeah, they're mocking him.
Dredd, look out!
There's definitely lots of bullets.
That makes me want to watch the movie again. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was a good trailer. That's like, yeah, I would go see that movie. It looks action packed, you know.
Definitely is
there's
action
a lot of going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I read that Schneider sort of impersonating him was just ad-libbed in the moment, but the cast and crew liked it, so they left it in. But at least like somebody mentions how like within the context of the world, it's like, you're ridiculous.
Yeah. There's Diane Lane also mocks him. She says something like, I knew you'd say that, or something like that.
Yeah, towards the end.
I think both characters make fun of like some of his catchphrases, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about Diane Lane for a second because I think she's wasted here, number one.
Oh, yeah.
Number two, just it feels like all of the story that kind of gets shifted to the buddy comedy should have been what's invested in her relationship with Stallone, because it's about him trusting her, being like the only judge that he trusts, like his only friend. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of just like they get separated, and then okay, well, they have to have the kiss at the end, so she's like just reduced almost to the love interest. But when you think of like the context of the world that they're talking about, she was an expert in whatever like legal field that he chose her to be his lawyer for. Mm-hmm. And so when you're rebuilding, it's like she seems like someone who would step into one of those roles, even though she was like a sort of a junior judge. She would be kind of the one who would fill the void, at least with like the bureaucracy of the sort of
she does become chief judge in the comics at some point.
There you go.
In the last few years, actually, when she got older. But she had her own series and stuff like that. So they did always have her set up as, and then you had Anderson, who was the PSI, the psychic judge, who's in the new movie. And she kind of had her own stuff going on as well. But Hershey was always like the sort of diplomatic street judge who could kind of work within the system, and Judge Dredd was always like the, more extreme, gets shit done character. In this movie, it almost becomes a movie about a really like a traumatized man learning how to become vulnerable. And then there's one scene where it implies that the film might go in that direction, and then Rob Schneider comes back and it becomes something else.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like at its core, the sort of themes of like the authoritarian overreach of law enforcement is what it's about. But yeah, the movie kind of buries the lead with that. At the very least.
Well, I think the movie likes that stuff. The movie likes the idea of a militarized police force, and you get that a lot with like people who say they like Judge Dredd, and you're kind of like, do you get that it's a satire like about fascism, or do you just like the fascism? And there are people who like Judge Dredd. He's cool because he goes and he kills all the crooks, and like Dirty Harry or whatever.
Yeah, and
it's like, they're not. But like the guy who created it was like, this is a satire of America, and this is a satire of. He's a Scottish. I mean, he is an American guy, actually. The guy who created him, but he's Scottish. He's basically been living in Scotland his whole life. But his whole thing is that Dredd is a fascist, and that he will always be that. And he lives within a fascist system, and it's about that, and it's about how those systems are kind of created and maintained and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I mean,
not to get like too deep about a comic or anything like that. But it's been running for 50 years almost, and
I mean,
he's been playing with this idea for 50 years almost.
Well, we're 30 years down the line from this movie, and I feel like the movie doesn't understand the satire, maybe, or the reason that the satire is important in the same way that a movie like RoboCop does, right? I think even in a movie like Demolition Man, it understands the satirical nature of like overreaching law enforcement as well.
Yeah.
Better than Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd is like, no, this guy's the hero because he does all of the fascist things. And I mean, unfortunately,
without the satire, it's just fascism.
And unfortunately, in 2025, it's like,
it
why are we like? It just was so much more pronounced to me. Like as a kid, like this is a Sylvester Stallone, Rob Schneider buddy comedy set in a sci-fi future. I'm not thinking about fascism. Watching it last night, I'm like, oh, super fascist, and very authoritarian. And I actually kind of understand the idea behind this character and his history now. And it was just very interesting to see that this guy is like framed as the hero and that there really is no archetypal growth, right? He doesn't even want to tear down the judge system. He doesn't think it's wrong. He actually wants to get back out on his bike and do some.
He wants to make
killing.
it pure. The problem is that he's being framed and that the system is being exploited. Actually, but he wants to maintain the system. Yeah,
but there's no learning curve.
No, there's no learning curve. No, but I mean, Ezquerra, who was the artist who created the look of him, he lived in fascist Spain. I mean, they made this about. They wanted this to be a takedown of fascism, basically. But there are a lot of people who don't get that, and there's a lot of people who like those elements a lot more about him. And it is about. Wagner talks about it all the time in interviews. He's like, it is about the attraction of fascism and how people are attracted to it. And Pat Mills as well, who created 2000 AD. Yeah, and was involved a lot in the early Dredd stuff. He's like a very anti-authoritarian punk guy, as was Alan Grant, who did a lot of Batman comics too. And all these guys just had this sort of like very left wing. They did not like Thatcher. They did not like any of the American presidents. Basically, I think every American president has been made fun of in Judge Dredd. But Judge Dredd's predicted a lot of things. If you look up what the guy who launched all the missiles that destroyed the North America, his name was President Booth, and if you look him up, he looks like somebody very similar right now. And that was drawn in like 1977 or whatever. And it's like, that looks very like a current guy. So they got that right. But yeah, he always talks about how the thing that's interesting about the character is that he is attractive. That idea of authoritarianism is attractive to people when you break it down. And he kind of goes into why is it attractive? Like, why do you want to feel safe? You want to feel, secure. And that's what the judges represent. They represent if somebody does something bad, they're going to get taken down at a very base level. That there is that attraction of, and that's kind of how societies sort of often go unless you have these checks and balances in place.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more, I think, readily apparent to me now, given the time that we're living in and the fact that this movie's 30 years old. The first scene where he goes into the building, it's just like murder everybody, and even the guy that surrenders, execute him on the spot. And this is a heroic behavior, and I'm just like, ugh. I'm like,
and you know what? The 2012, the 2012 movie kind of does it too.
Yeah.
And it just a little bit more where not to get into that movie as well, but there are scenes where they're just going and they're just killing everybody in sight. And then there's a little bit where, you see that, oh, this guy had a family or whatever. And Anderson regrets it, but Judge Dredd doesn't. But there are scenes where they're just like mowing everybody down. And these are people who are like in the 2012 movie who are forced into a situation that they're kind of, it's either that or they get killed themselves.
And
there's not much wiggle room for these people.
Yeah, I don't think it's an accident that sort of Rob Schneider's character is like representing like the poor. Like in the comics, like he literally lives underground. He's like the poorest of the poor. And so to have the judge sort of paired with him, I think should begin to unravel some of like the fallacy of that worldview, but really it ultimately doesn't. But I want to ask you quickly about just Batman and sort of the appeal of fascism, because, you mentioned Batman. And I think Batman is sort of like I don't want to say that Batman's a fascist, but at the same time, like what he does is go outside the confines of the law. And I think the appeal of Batman is that when a criminal gets away with something, that there's like some just faceless figure out there that is not going to let them get away with it. And that becomes like a very hard line in the sand between the kind of person that Batman is and the kind of person that Superman is. But there is like also a huge appeal to Batman for that reason. And you know, you see some of it in the comics too, where like some of the cops really love Batman because he's like doing things that they can't do. And then there's also other cops that like sort of hate Batman because he's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so it raises like a lot of just interesting questions about what we actually sort of appreciate in our hero archetypes.
And I think the interesting thing about like, this is like Zorro is another character who, you know, rights wrong, but he used to kind of go after rich people. Or Robin Hood. Robin Hood was another one. I mean, if you go right back to it, that's kind of what, you know, a wrong is being committed and somebody comes in and rights the wrong. Back in the day, though, it was like rich people were doing the wrong, or it was like barons or landlords or kings or whatever. And now it's like, you know, for Batman, it's mentally ill people. And it's you know, criminals and working class people. Because like, who is he beating up? Like, he's beating up a bunch of mentally ill people. I mean, you know, the Riddler's got a bit of a OCD situation going on. You know, it's okay. You just give him a different kind of game to play instead of, you know, kicking the crap out of him every time.
Arkham's an asylum. It's not necessarily a supermax prison.
Yeah. I mean, you can talk. You know, Alan Moore has always talked about the superhero genre as a sort of male power fantasy fascism kind of interpretation of the Robin Hood type stories, those hero archetypes. Which is an interesting. We're not going to get into that now because we don't need to.
No, but what I do find interesting in that is that I saw a theory sort of around our like 2016 election where there was a huge upswell in superhero content and superhero movies. You know, Iron Man's 2008, and then for the next 8 years, we're getting just stories of like one hero with one worldview that can fix all the problems, and if we just like back this person's play, then it's going to fix everything. And so and then all of a sudden we end up where we are now after sort of like promoting a lot of this culture sort of indirectly. Like Iron Man is not necessarily a fascist, but like look at the origins of the character. Like he's an arms dealer,
he's a weapons dealer.
Right. So he obviously had to have like some kind of awakening, but it is the awakening of his sort of consciousness in terms of his responsibility to the world that makes that character interesting. But, you know, like Thor, like a god, right, doesn't always act super morally, but somehow is still like very worthy and super powered. And so like there was just like this investment.
Captain America is the soldier, you know, the best soldier you can possibly have. I mean, when you look at superhero movies in general, they really became, because I mean there was X-Men in 2000 and they did okay and stuff like that. But when superhero movies, the first massive superhero movie, other than like outliers like Batman and Superman in the 70s or whatever, but when the superhero genre really took off was right after 9/11 with the first Spider-Man movie. That's when things really, it started. It didn't quite go as far as, you know, it took a decade or whatever for the Marvel stuff to come out. But that was the beginning, is when you've got, you know, the West or the Western countries are feeling insecure and they're feeling attacked and they're feeling unsafe. And now suddenly you've got somebody coming in and one man can solve all your problems and he can save the world. And that's when these movies started to really take off. And not to get into sociological sort of psychology of it all, but I mean the superhero movie is that is kind of what people like about it, I think, is that, you know, and they're entertaining and fun, but I mean, again, that's what Judge Dredd has always talked about, is the attraction of it. Like we like the idea that one person can come in and solve all, like Superman can come and save us, and or Batman can come and punish the people who deserve to be punished, or who we think deserve to be punished.
Yeah, no, I think psychologically it's actually very fascinating because, I mean, like I'm doing a whole superhero month and having sort of looked at all of these that are like predating the MCU. So none of the stuff that was sort of manufactured within the confines of the Disney machine. But to see different types of heroes portrayed differently at different eras. Like, we did The Phantom, which was a 90s movie, but it's set in the 30s, right? We did Spawn, which is a very sort of dark anti-hero, but is still fairly contemporary, right? Like Spawn could be in the 90s, it could be now, it could be sort of whenever, but that's like a literal mercenary who is now maybe the most compelling hero, and then you frame him in a world where like everybody else is worse than him, so it's like, all right, well, maybe this guy who has the right skills to do the job is the hero that we sort of needed for this situation. And now to come full circle to a story like Dredd, where I feel like the commentary on the specificity of hero worship and a culture that sort of exists around hero worship and how dangerous that is something that maybe like we actually saw in the 90s being a little bit smarter about how it was handled. And then when we dove full on head first into it in the mid-aughts and the late aughts, now we sort of are where we are. And I just find that it's fascinating. And I'm glad that I took the plunge to do a superhero month, because it gave me the opportunity to like actually talk about some of these things in a way that I didn't anticipate coming from it.
I mean, it is interesting seeing the pre-2000s superhero comic book movies, Tank Girl and Dark Man and all that kind of stuff, because it's almost like they're all trying slightly different things, and they're like, what, maybe this will work, maybe that'll work. They're trying to get everything kind of correct and stuff like that. And then when you look at the post-2000 stuff, it's where it really starts taking off. And once that first, because I think Batman is seen as an outlier. Burton's Batman is seen as an outlier, and it's seen as kind of like it worked because of Tim Burton. It's a Tim Burton movie about Batman. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that I think that's maybe how the industry saw it. And then the Superman movie works because it's Superman and it's Christopher Reeve, and that's like a one-time thing. And even the sequels of Superman didn't really, take off quite as much. But then when you look at the kind of once it becomes like its own genre and its own like the most successful genre in world cinema, North American cinema, over the course of like 2 decades, I mean, there's something going on there where it's like they've made so many of these things now. It's kind of crazy, and they're all basically fairly similar. Not that it's bad or anything like that, but they're all pretty similar. And it is all about, I alone can fix it. So that is the basic idea of, even if the Avengers is really about people coming together to solve a problem, it's still, they don't really push that idea where, the heroes need to work together to solve problems, which is, that's too.
Yeah.
Bunch of socialists if they do that.
I think that's what made X-Men fascinating as a comic and made it so popular, is that like X-Men, they're a marginalized group. They're hated by society. Yeah. They represent basically every minority group, and then they still sort of fight for the safety of people that hate them. And it's very different.
They fight for a greater good that's beyond their own,
Yeah, and they are very much about teamwork, and that's what makes the X-Men formidable, is that they practice as a team. Like, they actually we have practice, like we play sports, and we do team building exercises, and that's what gives them an advantage. Where I think with like the Avengers, like you're just cramming sort of like a bunch of egos together, and that's what's at play. And that how are all of these egos going to sort of work? And that's the main rub between Captain America and Iron Man, is that Iron Man, you're not a team player, you don't know what it means to sacrifice, like you've never been a soldier, you're just you're a tech bro, and
it becomes just about two opposing points of view, really, but it's the same idea. It's just they have two different ways of doing it. But I mean, that's what the Civil War stuff was all about, right? It was just like they're still both going towards in the same direction, they just have different ideas about how to get there. Well,
I'm glad that we got to talk about this movie and a lot of the surprising themes that exist, despite it being sort of like a catastrophic Sylvester Stallone mess. Like Dredd.
People who watch this now are like listening to us. They're like, I don't know what you guys are talking
they're like,
about.
what fascism? Like, get the hell out of here. What are you guys talking about?
None of that's in there. You
guys are libtards. No, hopefully. I mean, if you're listening, hopefully you're paying attention to what we're talking about, because like it was very specific in Dredd, and like consider that this movie's 30 years old. The comic itself, 50 years old. It was written in the 80s, right? So 40, 50 years old. Like, these stories have been there for a long time for a reason. And I think we're sort of like in the situation that we're in for a reason. And it's nice to sort of punctuate the month with a very decided example of that idea. But let's have some more fun. We'll lighten it up. Do you want to do some trivia?
Sure, let's do trivia. Yeah.
Time for trivia. All right. So Danny Cannon, as I mentioned during the production notes, he turned down a trilogy film in a very successful franchise to make this movie. Ends up making this movie and releasing the same weekend as that other trilogy film in the franchise. Do you know what that movie is?
Not Batman, is it? He wouldn't.
No, it's not Batman.
Well, what? It was a movie in a trilogy.
It was the third installment of a franchise.
Oh wow! I went to the movies a lot back then. What the hell could that be?
It's also not necessarily authoritarian, but it is definitely like pro one cop can do everything and solve problems.
RoboCop?
The right cop. No, it was
I know there was a RoboCop.
Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Oh yeah. You know what? That's the only Die Hard I've never seen.
It's my favorite Die Hard, to be honest.
Yeah, people love it. I don't know why I've never watched it. Yeah.
Yeah. I just it's a fun one, and I will die on that hill. It's my favorite. I don't know that it's necessarily the best, but it is my favorite of the franchise.
And then so the 2012 Judge Dredd movie is Die Hard, basically. So
yeah, there you go. So this movie, Judge Dredd, ends up opening opposite same weekend as Die Hard with a Vengeance, and then gets pulverized at the box office by that movie. Yeah. So I'm sure that's like a weird bit of, Schadenfreude.
I mean, that was Stallone versus Willis, right? That was probably how it was all sold. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Danny Cannon's like, damn, I turned down that to do this, and this has been
who did Die Hard with a Vengeance? Who directed that movie?
Oh God, who did direct that?
He would have had a tough time with Bruce Willis too. I mean,
that's true.
Rocking a hard place, man.
But at least that's the third film in the series, so it's like you kind of already have that
guaranteed
established. Yeah. Oh, that was John McTiernan. Very solid. Nice. Yes, action.
You know what? He would have made an interesting Judge Dredd movie, probably.
He would have. Yeah. Could have swapped. You guys could have swapped and had both movies be good. Release them separately. I don't know.
You probably would have been more like what Sly Stallone wanted. John McTiernan probably would have done more what he wanted.
Yeah,
not followed his instructions, but in terms of made a movie that's maybe more, geared towards commercial.
Yeah. Well, Die Hard with a Vengeance, I think, like, is funny when it wants to be, but also like just the level of the actors makes.
I mean, Samuel L. Jackson instead of Rob Schneider.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a huge disparity between the two of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go to question number 2. So this is not the first time that Sly and Max von Sydow were together in a movie. Do you know what the 1981 film was that they did together?
1981.
Yep.
What year was Rocky? The first Rocky. I know he wasn't in that.
79.
78.
Yeah.
So it would have been right around then. God, I don't know. Cobra.
It was a movie that I've never heard of called Victory, where Stallone plays a army captain soccer goalie for allies in a concentration
Escape to
camp.
Victory. Escape to Victory.
Is it Escape to Victory? I don't know.
Maybe in Europe it's called Escape to Victory, where they played a football match together. Yeah.
Yes.
Haven't seen it, but I know it. I'm sure Max von Sydow was playing a German.
Yes, he's very, very much playing a German. All right, well, I'll give you partial credit for that one since you knew the official title. Okay, so question number 3. The Coen brothers were offered the chance to make this movie, but turned it down to direct what project?
The Coen brothers were going to make this movie?
They were offered the chance to make the movie, but they declined in favor of a better project.
That would have been incredible. I mean, 95 was, what do we got? We got Barton Fink. We got Hudsucker Proxy. I mean, Fargo was 96.
That's the one.
Was it Fargo?
Fargo's the one.
Oh wow! I
They
mean,
said
the right choice
no
there.
to Judge Dredd.
Good for cinema.
Good for
Yeah.
cinema, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have. I mean, a Coen Brothers Judge Dredd movie would be one of the most insane things I could possibly imagine. I can't see them managing to, a budget of this size. Which, I mean, maybe Sylvester Stallone wouldn't be cast, but who would have been a better Judge Dredd around that time? I don't know. Who you got? Who could have done the role that isn't? I mean, it was always supposed to be Clint Eastwood back in the day, but I mean,
Yeah,
he
I
got
could
too
see
old for
that.
it.
Just Dirty
You need
Harry
someone with a
was
prominent chin.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, you could have been Peter Weller, but he already did RoboCop, so probably not going to bring him back.
James Woods, maybe.
Oh,
what age was he around then?
Yeah, benefit of hindsight.
He'd love to play a fascist.
Yeah,
it'd be his fucking favorite thing in the world. Give him a gun.
James Woods probably would have been a very good Judge Dredd.
He's tall. He's kind of like. I mean, the comic version of Judge Dredd is different depending on who you believe is the definitive artist. But I think James Woods. Oh yeah, I mean, he's made some stinkers as well. He likes his catchphrases too, doesn't he?
He does.
In a few of his movies.
Well, you got we'll say 2 out of 3, which is solid work. So when we were doing the production notes read, so Arnold Schwarzenegger was set to play Dredd with Peter Hewitt directing, and they initially wanted Michael Ironside as Rico. And so this brings me back to what I wanted to say earlier about the cloning, is that technology already existed at this point for like the shared screen with 2 actors. We've already seen it multiple times. Right. Pretty much every action star has done some version of this. Like Arnold did it in Last Action Hero. Van Damme has done it multiple times. In what world is Armand Assante the clone of Sylvester Stallone? Like, just giving them blue contacts does not make them clones. Like, do they fundamentally not understand like what cloning is? Like, they're supposed to be identical,
but they're also clones of Max von Sydow.
Yes. Well, I mean, at least he's old, so it's like,
yeah. I mean, I guess you could argue that
you could at least
like Stallone back in the day.
You could at least suspend your disbelief enough to be like, oh well, yeah, he's the old version of them, so you're not expecting them to look the same. But yeah, they're staring right at each other. I'm like, why not just do double roles for Stallone at this point?
I'm sure they could have found another Italian American who looks a bit like Stallone. I mean, there's, Eric Roberts or someone. I mean, even someone who's got like a little bit of it, his look, you could probably get away with, where he's got like a big chin or something.
I don't know if you watch Friends or like super familiar with the series, but there's an episode where Joey's trying to participate in like a clinical trial for twins, and so he hires an actor that like looks nothing like him to be his twin, and they're like trying to pull this off, and like that's the only thing I could think of watching this movie, because I can't buy into the idea that they're clones. Like, just eliminate the clone thing and just be like, it's a super soldier project, right? Or buy into the clone thing, and then it's like an army of clones. Like they did it in Star Wars in the prequel trilogy, where Jango Fett was the prototype clone for the clone army. Like, they at least acknowledge that.
Yeah. Or I mean, I don't even know what Armin Hassan was trying to do in the movie. Like, what? So you build all these clones, and is it that you have judges that are all exactly like you? Because, you guys all turned out different anyway. So, I mean, it doesn't even...
Nature versus like, nurture.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't... Yeah, because in the comics, they do have a thing where he is a clone of the comics, but I mean, they don't... I think they just do it so that they don't have to talk about his parents or anything like that. So they don't have to, like, have a backstory and an origin story. And they're just like, he's a clone. It doesn't matter. They don't really... They only go into it in, like, one big story. But generally, I didn't understand why it became about clones and why they were doing it. I guess he wanted to control the city for some reason. Why did Armand Assante even want to be chief judge, or why did he even want to do all of these things? Like, what was his motivation?
He was a psycho.
He could have just gotten out of there. I mean, he was a psycho. Yeah,
he was a psycho, and
he wanted revenge, and he wanted to prove that he was right.
I think what he really wanted was, He wanted a family.
Oh,
he gave Sly so many chances to be like
betrayed by his brother.
Be my brother. Come on, like we're family.
He didn't know he was his brother though. So, but Armand Asante didn't know he was his brother.
Yes.
All right. They don't really explain that though.
Yeah. So even worse, like he's been locked in jail, knowing that he's got a clone bro out there, and his dad has like separated them and locked him up.
Clone dad.
Yeah. So he's got a lot of dad issues that have led to him being probably more psychotic than he already was, which caused him to be locked up in the first place. But the implication is that he was locked up for being like too judging, right? And so even
in the comics, he kind of kills people for no reason. Like that's the idea. He's corrupt and he's taking bribes and he's living it up and yeah.
Yeah, because Sly, they allude to it earlier in the movie where he's like, I had a friend, but I judged him. And then, so yes, this was Rico who he judged.
A lot of people can relate. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he lost his only
that friend.
Yeah, he lost his only friend because he had to judge him because he loves the law so much, which Rico, Dredd loves the law. So it is an interesting sort of dynamic in that there is this adherence to Dredd's identity as like a figure of the law and a believer in the law, as if he's sort of like an attorney, but he's not really an attorney. He's not like a guy that goes to court and like really believes in the system and due process. It's like you execute people in the street. You execute unarmed people in the street. I think in James Raymar's case, he did have a gun that he was pulling out, but you don't strike me as someone who really believes in the law. You're someone who believes in authority, and that's
yes,
a different thing.
That is the thing. Yeah. Yeah. I like that this film essentially becomes the thing that the comic satirizes, and that's why it's kind of an interesting thing to watch. Is that it becomes a version of the story that the comic is actually making fun of a lot of the time, or is satirizing or criticizing, and the movie becomes the thing that unintentionally becomes the thing. But all the ingredients are still there because it is based on that.
Yeah,
idea, right?
I think that tells me that like it definitely is a Stallone problem, because he wasn't familiar with the character. Like he didn't sign on to the project because he believed in the identity. And then as he's reading the script and going through the movie, it's like, oh no, like I want to be Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd is the good guy.
He probably interpreted it as like a Dirty Harry in the future. Yeah. I mean, that is kind of what the character started as. Yeah. Even in the comics, they were like, this is the idea. Like, but that he even looked like Clint Eastwood when he was first drawn and stuff like that. I mean, he had like they had the look and stuff like that. He called people punks and stuff like that,
But for the adaptation of the first adaptation to then become the antithesis of what the story is actually about is such an interesting curve for that movie. Like, here's where you started. By the end of it, you ended up sort of completely missing the point, and also sort of like proving the point that the comic is trying to make. So you kind of like, you do it a disservice, but also it did galvanize enough energy to then get the second Dredd made all those years later, because people were upset with the first one. But
the second Dredd also doesn't does the same thing, where Judge Dredd is the hero, except it's a better movie.
It is,
but it is still the idea that like he's in the right, these drug pushers are in the wrong, and they all deserve to die. And they're it's pretty, the stuff they do is pretty violent and gross and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't exactly do the same thing the comics is doing. The 2012 Dredd movie kind of just does a better version of what this movie is trying to do. Fair. Which is that it's trying to turn the cop into like the hero, and there's a little bit more with Anderson where she gets to, there's a little criticism in there, but it's interesting that the story gets interpreted in the same way kind of twice almost.
Maybe what makes for an interesting movie doesn't necessarily make for like the same interesting comic. Because like with a comic, you're obviously like, you're flipping through pages, you have a lot more time. You're sort of, you're able, there's like writing on the page, so you actually get to like see the writing, versus like all of this is, the writing is in the background and we maybe see the script eventually, but the script changes a lot by the time it gets to the screen. So the identity of what you sort of intend to do on paper then being translated into film, it's like, well, what makes for a good film is like him killing everybody. It's like, well, yeah, that makes it like entertaining, I guess, but is it not possible maybe to make a Judge Dredd film or live action product and actually address the elephant in the room about the sort of like moral implications of the character?
I think there is. Yeah. I think RoboCop gets close to it, to be honest, because at least there you've got a character who he doesn't want to be a robot. He gets turned into a robot and
against his will.
He's battling with his, more authoritarian self. So there is that of it. But I do think it's possible. Yeah, I definitely think it's possible. I think it just probably requires a very strong sort of director, basically, to do it, who wants to do it. Yeah. It would probably be easier to do in a TV show, I think, than a movie, but yeah, because you would have that time to play with the idea that, oh, this is the hero, and then you undercut it, and you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Which the comic does too. The comic does all that all the time. Yeah. It's like, oh, look, he's great, he's cool. You
get to have fun with all the explosives and the bikes and the guns and all that, and do all the propaganda stuff that you want. And then in the process of showing that, like, you just start building the base of the other side, and then sort of hopefully
there's
by
a
the end,
sinister sort of underneath it all. Yeah. So
it just felt like much more present, at least in my own awareness of it. I mean, granted, I hadn't watched it since I was a kid, so watching it as an adult in 2025 is like, oh wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There you go. It still has something worthwhile to be watched.
It does. I think worth watching for sure. Well, let's go to the bonus wheel, because you got a couple of questions right off of trivia, so we're going to get some spins of the wheel. So if we were going to make that Judge Dredd product right now, who would you want to see at the helm?
In terms of a director?
Yeah.
Who would be good? It would have to be somebody who's good with action. It would have to be someone who's... I mean, I still think George Miller would be a good choice even today. Yeah. I think, he's getting on in the years. I think it might be interesting to have like a woman director like Catherine Bigelow or someone like that, maybe, who can handle action but can also kind of understand the sort of... I mean, I don't know. I know where you are, Catherine Bigelow, but yeah,
she's a good filmmaker.
Yeah. Would she get the undertones, or would she be like, no, this is great? She made Zero Dark 30, so I don't know if she...
True.
Yeah.
But I even feel like that movie like still grapples with more of the sort of ethical and moral considerations of what they're doing, knowing that it's like a necessity, but like you have characters there that I think are at least aware of it, where I don't think that's the case in it, at least not in this Judge Dredd.
Yeah. I don't know. A younger director might be good too, but who's a big action director these days? Do they even have them? I mean, Gareth, is it Gareth Evans, the guy who did The Raid? Who there's a whole thing about The Raid and Judge Dredd, the 2012 one, and the script being leaked and all this kind of stuff. But we don't have to get into that. But he would have been a cool director to do it as well, because I think he was also a big 2000 AD fan and Judge Dredd fan and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I think that works. You'd get the sort of action that you want out of that, and yeah, I'd like to see that.
I'll think of someone great right when this ends. So I'll be like,
text me afterwards. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go to another question off the board. What brand would shamelessly sponsor this movie today?
Harley Davidson,
for sure.
Who makes
Harley
good helmets?
Davidson Lawmaster.
Yeah, who makes good helmets? I don't know. Doc Martens.
Yeah. Boots. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go to one more question off the wheel, because I like spinning the wheel and getting to some of these questions. So you get to pick one character from the movie. What would they be posting on social media the morning after the events of the film?
I mean, if it was Judge Dredd, not that he would do that, yeah, but he'd be posting about how he's back on the streets and he's the law's back home.
It'd
the
be
law
like
comes home.
It'd be a picture of his boot on somebody's throat, and with the caption "Back to work."
Yeah, the boys are back in town. Yeah, him and Fergie, the boys are back in town. Yeah, what happens to Fergie afterwards? He just goes on living his life, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll wrap up the wheel then, and want to give you an opportunity quickly. Is there anything that you like really wanted to touch on that like we haven't gotten a chance to talk about yet?
I think we talked about a lot of the stuff. We didn't talk much about the Angel Gang, who I think are pretty well realized in this film.
Yeah.
They're a big part of the comics back in the day. I thought Mean Machine looked amazing.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, he looked like he looked really cool. I was like, he looks better in that movie than he would look in a movie today.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think the production design and the look of the movie is actually pretty good. Up until the third act, where it just becomes them in corridors and shouting about clones and stuff. It was nice to see Joan Chen in something that wasn't Twin Peaks, I guess.
Yeah, let me ask you about her. Why on earth is she with Rico?
Because they need someone for Diane Lane to fight at the end, and you can only have a woman fight another woman. You can't, which also happens in the 2012 Dredd movie, by the way. But you can't have her fight a man and a man fight a woman. So you have to have a woman character go up against a woman character. And that's what equality was in the 90s.
Yeah.
That's what that meant.
That's very true. I was just like watching her and I'm like, she doesn't really seem to like be very gung-ho for him.
She flips into evil pretty quick.
Yes.
Because initially she's like quite critical of him. And then they're just murdering everybody. And she's like, whatever, I'm into this. Yeah.
And I read a quote that is like, she treated it as if like it was a love interest and that like she was attracted to, I think what she said was like his absolutism. And I'm like, okay, if that is the case,
she's read more into the movie than
yeah. I was like, if that's the case, when you're on screen with him, like there's so many times where he's talking where she just like looks disinterested or she looks like I made a mistake, which would make sense if she ends up turning, but like she doesn't. Like she's no, I'm Team Rico.
Well, I think she probably read the script and was like, this is what I could do. And then she was on set with Armand Assante and she was like, this is horrific.
Yeah. What is this guy
doing? What is he doing? I am the chaos.
I mean, I love that Armand Assante is like completely unhinged in this movie from the very first moment that we see him.
He's doing what he wants.
Yeah, he's in a very different position than everybody else in the film. And I'm like, okay, maybe he read the script and really believed in the ideas that were present, and then like you end up acting across Stallone, who's like more or less mailing it in. He doesn't really believe in Dredd or the ideas, and like even in that the picture that we shared where he's just like awkwardly standing there, like why are you fully flexed, sort of like with your chest out, looking at your own clones? I mean, like what is happening in this scene? So it must have been very difficult for Asante to like try to be as intense as he was, because he seems almost like Rutger Hauer's like replicant, but if you actually like gave that character like a intense personality, and so like you want that dynamic.
Must have been aware as an actor, being the villain in one of these movies can lead to like some really good things. I mean, or you can be sometimes the best thing in the movie if you're the villain in a comic book movie. Back then it was that was you didn't want to be Batman, you wanted to be the villain. That was the big draw, right? And he is doing stuff in this film and it is not working. And he's up against Sylvester Stallone, who is also not working in this movie. So I don't know. Yeah.
I feel like
I would have loved to have been on set just being like, what is going on with these two?
Yeah.
Everyone must have just been like poor Diane Lane, who's like so good.
Yeah.
It's like deserves so much better.
She's like, let me keep my helmet on so you don't see me laughing.
Yeah. She's like, I'm just here for the check.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for her because I feel like her character has a lot more growth and she's just a better performer than the movie allows her to be.
And she's quite good in it as well. Like she nails the character just exactly as you should be doing it. And she's just barely in it, unfortunately. Yeah, because it takes Dredd out and gives him a quick holiday into Cursed Earth and then immediately brings him back. And it's like, what is just so you could get the Angel family in there? Probably, I don't know.
Yeah, probably. We need
Cursed Earth is its own movie.
Yeah, it absolutely.
That's the sequel.
That's probably the way that it should have been handled.
And Max, there's that scene, where Max, it's like just, it happens 3 times where somebody's behind somebody and they kill the person. Like that happens multiple times in this
Conveniently,
movie. And
somebody was here
Max
with a
von
gun.
Sydow just turns up and immediately gets killed. Like he saves Dredd, immediately gets killed, does his little speech.
Yeah.
And you're like, where didn't he just leave Mega City 1? Like how far were these people?
I don't know. They took an airplane to get out to wherever they were going, but or a drop
Sydow
ship.
walked.
But, he walked fast,
real quick.
Yeah.
And somehow in the entire barren wasteland of connecting California and New York, he somehow found Dredd in this little cave.
Yeah. Maybe he saw the plane go down. He started heading in that direction.
Yeah,
and
probably,
maybe the whole maybe the grease on Stallone's arms, they were like buttering him up before they were about to cook him. So maybe they had taken their time and they, I don't know how many days.
They just have a clone connection. They just know where each other.
I mean, you're my clone. The clone beacon is pinging.
Doesn't apply to Rico, but whatever. Just let's not think about it. Yeah.
No, they were partners and they didn't even know that they were brothers.
They didn't even know they were brothers. But they look so alike. They had the same eye color.
Yeah, maybe. That would have been a dead giveaway, I guess. Had they been actually twins, then they would have known that they weren't just friends and partners. They were actually brothers, and they would have had more questions for Dad.
If this movie had 2 Stallones and they were doing like the mirror thing, imagine how incredible that would have been.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want that.
Over the top it would have been if Sylvester Stallone also played the villain. Oh my God. I am the chaos.
Yeah, I feel like it's a missed opportunity because it's like Van Damme did it, Schwarzenegger did it. You can definitely do this. It's not it's not a brand new technique. You could have played both roles, but he would have demanded $30 million for that. And
I mean, half the time it didn't even seem like they were in the same scene together. So I mean,
probably not.
Yeah, they're probably doing their shots differently. Yeah.
All right. Well, now we go to more or less. You tell me one thing that you want more of in the film and one thing that you want less of in the film.
I wanted more of the world. I wanted more of Mega City. I wanted to see more of like the kind of just day-to-day life. I know that's not always possible, but like I would have liked to seen more kind of. There's a few comic references, but I would have liked to see. There's a Chopper reference, I think, at one point. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen more of Mega City 1 because I think they did a pretty good job realizing Mega City 1 and the vibe and the kind of chaotic nature of it and all this kind of stuff and the different types of citizens and all the stuff. The block war was kind of cool and I don't know. I would have liked to have seen more of him in Mega City 1. I would have liked to have seen less of Sylvester Stallone, which is obviously impossible because he's, if they could have imprisoned him for a while longer and just had it be about like Mean Machine teaming up with Hammerstein or something, that would have been cool, and Hershey to go find him. I don't know. I'm just making it wouldn't have worked. But I think less honestly, you know what? Less clone stuff. If they made the third act about just having him not be framed or whatever, or kind of redeeming him as a judge or whatever, that would have been more interesting to me than all the weird clone stuff that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's like the clone stuff makes sense in terms of a movie that wants to be very authoritarian and very fascist and lean into sort of like race purity. But the movie does not have the language to articulate those themes. So just scrap the clones, make them brothers. Then I don't have to worry about why they don't look like each other. And then that's fine. Even if they were just ex-partners, I think that still works probably fine for what you're doing. You can still have your showdown. You can still have him be like completely insane as Rico. And you don't have to get into the weird eugenics that are going on. Because like were there just more clones of Rico is what it seems like? Because he implied that like this is your birthright, this is your like legacy or something, your family.
Yeah, I think they had the genetic material and he was just fast cloning all of them. But yeah, I think they did say that it was his, taken from him. Yeah.
In as little as 8 hours, you can
cloning
have a fully grown human clone.
Yeah, inbred clones, basically.
Yeah,
I guess all clones are probably inbred. Yeah, but like, you're cloning a person who's already been cloned, so it's like the second iteration of the clone.
Yeah,
because he himself is a clone. So
that's probably why he was mentally unstable. Yeah,
a
little few screws loose in the cloning process.
Yeah. Dredd turned out okay.
Yeah.
Or did he?
By comparison, I guess. But I mean, I think technically probably not. He does a lot of killing. Okay, well, we've had some nice things to say, and now I'm going to go to some not nice things as we head over to Critics Corner for all the actual critics reviews. We have at the start a unscored review from Rita Kempley at the Washington Post. Says, aside from the affable Schneider and the able Lane, the cast seems to be in deep shock. Make that Dredd lock. Boom, boom.
Nice.
Very, very clever, Rita. I'm so glad that you put pen to paper on that one. I mean, if the thing that she liked the most about the movie, if the thing she liked about the movie the most was Rob Schneider, then I mean, we're playing with a different set of cards here. But okay,
well, I mean, the critics are probably reading this as like, this is a Sylvester Stallone movie.
Yeah,
that's they're not reading it as a Judge Dredd comic book movie necessarily.
Fair.
They're like, how does this fit into Sly Stallone's current output?
0% of the critics had actually any framework for what Judge Dredd is, probably. So
yeah.
Okay, well, we go to Susan Wolzinska from USA Today. There's a lot of S's and Z's and C's in there, so I'd probably butcher that pronunciation. But USA Today gave it a 2 out of 4. Says, never has such a big dumb movie seemed so small as it shrinks from Blade Runner sharp to Jetsonian junkie. So I think that's at least fair. You know, he gave it a 2 out of 4.
I mean, the movie does shrink. It keeps getting smaller and smaller and more contained until they're just running down corridors and they're just in a room yelling at each other. And it starts with like a block war, where everyone, it definitely does keep getting smaller and smaller, which is weird.
Yeah, it's like we spent all our money already at the beginning, so now just matte canvas in the background, and let's find a hallway.
We spent all our money on the NC-17 version that we're not showing you.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can get that released on a special edition somewhere. Okay, we'll go laterally on the board, also a 2 out of 4. This is James Berardinelli from Real View. Says, sometimes it's rather amusing, but it's impossible to decide whether this is accidental or on purpose. I get that the first time, like you can sort of watch it and be like, oh, it is sort of intentionally dumb and humorous and kind of strips away at those things. But I feel like the purpose behind those decisions was kind of accidental, like intentional, but accidentally misinterprets kind of like what the story is about.
Yeah, I think it's also like two creative versions of the film are coming head to head, basically, and it's gonna be confused.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, let's go to Peter Reiner from the Los Angeles Times. Gave it a 2 out of 5, so even lower. Says the director doesn't provide much kinetic movie-making pleasure, but he knows enough to jam the screen with clamor. It's not excitement exactly, it's simulated excitement.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what is the saying about sort of like movement doesn't equal action or something like that? And I feel like early on, the way that it's shot, it's like, oh, this is like going to be a fun sort of sci-fi action movie, and then it progressively scales back from where we start, right? I mean, there's like rocket launchers and stuff in the beginning. There's a whole like siege of an apartment building, and then it just gets sort of smaller and smaller, like the other review said. And yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think the best action works when you care about what's happening. You care about the characters to a degree, but you also care about what's happening. And I think that what happens at the end of this movie is you don't care about either.
Yes.
You don't, yeah. It's like, who cares if he blows this thing up or if he doesn't? They're both yelling at me. So I'm just like,
and even the character
I need
didn't
this
really
to end.
care. Even Dredd himself is like, the system is done, the cloning lab is broken, but like, good luck with that. Where's my motorcycle?
They try to have that one emotional moment where it just doesn't work. And it's just like, yeah.
Fair. All right. Well, we'll close it out with Eddie Harrison from Film Authority. Gave it a 3 out of 5. Says, don't listen to the doubters. With a great aerial chase scene, lots of cool guns and gadgets, and a 30s serial vibe, this Judge Dredd is above the law when it comes to mindless fun.
I think that was written by the studio, and then
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it is the newest of the reviews as well. So somebody was like, "Hey, we need to pump up the numbers here a little bit."
The fact that you would mention the aerial chase scene is just wild to me. I would be like cutting that out of the movie if I was releasing it today.
there are lots of cool guns and gadgets, and obviously the ABC robot, and the movie has its charms. The production design is good. I don't get a 30s serial vibe from this, and having just talked about The Phantom and covering like the history of that being a 30s serial adaptation and sort of the movies that were coming out as part of that movement, this does not feel like that at all. But to say that Judge Dredd is above the law when it comes to mindless fun is a very sort of punny way to put a exclamation on that review, because it's fun, it's short, the stakes kind of like dissolve over time. I think it starts off pretty strong, and then like you said, in the second half it begins to sort of like peter out, and like I don't really care about Dredd that much. I definitely don't care about Rob Schneider. I really care about Diane Lane's character, but she's not in the movie at that point. I'm like, what's going on with her? Like, let's get her back here.
If they just teamed them up instead of the Rob Schneider thing, it might, like, there's no reason not to. There's no reason why she couldn't have been the second person. It's
like RoboCop did this already. We can't do it. They beat us to the punch.
She'd just be a damsel in, wouldn't she?
Yeah. Damn it.
Yeah.
Oh well. We exit Critics Corner probably no better off than we went in, but it's time for the gateway drug movie, because there are probably a lot of movies in the neighborhood when it comes to Judge Dredd, especially during the mid-90s. So what's a good launch pad for somebody who like maybe has never seen Judge Dredd, but is like potentially willing to take a risk if you recommend it?
As in like a movie that will like make them want to watch Judge Dredd, or
potentially
sort of, yeah. I mean, you could say that it's like a cheesy 90s version of Blade Runner. You could try doing that. Yeah. There's a movie I watched recently called Outland. I don't know if you've ever seen that, with Sean Connery. And he's a cop on like a space station, and there's like a thing that explodes everybody's heads, and it's pretty cool.
That sounds fun.
It was very 2000 AD. It had a very 2000 AD vibe to me. But he was like a working class cop kind of thing, where he was like, it was a bit more down to earth. But that gave a kind of a good 2000 AD vibe to me. But yeah, I mean, it is basically Dirty Harry, Blade Runner, and that is what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think my like first instinct would be Demolition Man, because it's still Stallone. It's a better movie overall, because even though you have a character in like Wesley Snipes who's kind of an unhinged villain, it's not all the way like, he's cartoonish, but I feel like what Armand Assante is doing like goes beyond cartoon. Like it's so amplified in comparison to the rest of the film. But I don't know, I've kind of leaned back the other direction. I think maybe Fifth Element, because Fifth Element, like you have sort of like the city environment. You get an action star from the 90s kind of like jumping into a sci-fi world. I feel like that movie is much more focused on what it wants to be, and people even think that movie is a mess to some degree. So yeah, I think that it has the comedy relief character and Chris Tucker. So if you like Fifth Element, I think Judge Dredd is probably like not that far off, not nearly as good, but in the same
I'd agree with
sort
that.
of sandbox.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you've got Mila Jovovich in it too, so
yeah,
that's gonna be a plus.
Yeah, definitely a plus. Maybe not as much of a plus these days as it used to be, but I just watched Into the Lost Lands. Well, because Paul W.S. Anderson's her husband, so he just like makes movies specifically for her, which is great. But yeah, it's kind of like the same movie every time. The most recent one was like she's a witch and she's hunting down Dave Bautista, who's a werewolf or something like that, and they're in like a post-apocalyptic future. Yeah, I mean, I watched it, okay, because on paper, like, is it great? No. Is it exactly what I thought it was? Also, yes. I don't feel like I wasted my time.
the man has his muse,
He does, yeah. He knows exactly what kind of movies he makes, so I appreciate that. And also, I appreciate your time. do you want to tell people where they can find you? You want to plug anything while you're here?
I mean, I'm just on Letterboxd. I guess that would be my main avenue if you want to see my somewhat long, somewhat pithy reviews sometimes. But yeah. I will be reviewing Judge Dredd next week. Both of them, actually.
Oh, nice.
Because I watched them back to back. So yeah, I have my little Judge Dredd character here.
Oh, cool.
You can, yeah. That's the only one of these things I've ever bought. But
is it a Funko?
Yeah, it's a Funko, I think. Yeah. Or if it's not a Funko, it's a ripoff of a Funko. But yeah. Yeah. He's cool. He's in my room. Yeah. He doesn't take his helmet off either. Yeah, that's Letterboxd basically all I use these days. Yeah.
Well, I'll make sure that I put the links up to that, and yeah, that's it. Yeah. I appreciate you being here, man. It's nice to talk to you again. I'm going to be speaking with Felicia on Monday.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, she said that. Yeah. What are you guys doing? You're
Megalopolis.
Megalopolis. She loves that movie.
I know. I was surprised because when it had first come out, like I don't think I saw her mention it, and then randomly,
oh really?
I saw her say something on Twitter about it, and I was like, oh, you're a Megalopolis fan, eh? Well, I've been looking for somebody to talk about this movie.
We saw it on opening weekend in the theaters. I liked it too, but that's a movie that has a creative vision.
For sure. So I'm excited to speak with her and to go back into that. And then her and I are going to do part of another larger project in 2026 for Revisionist Almanac. So,
all right, cool.
I'm going to look back at 1965. I talked to the host and he was like, you know anybody who would like want to do 1965? And I was like, actually, I think I know the person that would want to do it. And so she was. Well,
there's a theory. There's a theory that 1963 is the best year in cinematic history, right?
Interesting. 63.
63. Yeah. If you look at a lot of the movies that came out in 63, were like, big, like world cinema and everything else. Like there's a lot of movies there that.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, it'll be nice to go back and to carve into 1965 because 60s are not a strong suit for me. So I was like, let me bring back up. Let me bring someone who I know is well versed in classic cinema.
It's good because it was a time where you had the kind of the leftovers of the studio system, and you had all the people who knew how to make really big movies, and then you had like the kind of the 70s kids were kind of starting to come into it and stuff like that, and you had the more experimental stuff happening. So yeah. That's a good period.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
They should have made a Judge Dredd movie back then.
Should have made a Judge Dredd comic back then first.
They should have
made the Judge Dredd movie.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, it was nice chatting with you. I will. I'll make sure that I like tag you on stuff when I get the episode released. But if I have any follow-up questions, I'll shoot you a DM or something.
Yeah. No problem.
Cool. All right. Have yourself a good day.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah. You too. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you to Darragh for coming back on the show. It had been a long time since we had sat down and talked. We did get to meet in person last year, though, and so it was really cool to catch up with him. And it was really cool to look back on Judge Dredd 30 years down the line and to really get into the nitty-gritty of what the idea of the character and the story are and where the movie ended up landing and why that sort of disservice to the source material actually lands it more so in the bad movie category. If you want to hear more of Darragh's thoughts on film, you can check him out at Darragh McG on Letterboxd, and make sure you look for the icon of Burt Lancaster in The Swimmer and you'll know you're in the right place. And of course, thank you to everyone who took the time to listen to the episode. I know there's a seemingly infinite number of options when it comes to podcasts, and I appreciate you letting me into your ear holes and hopefully into your hearts. In all seriousness, though, time is valuable, and I am very grateful that you've entrusted me with yours. If you enjoy the show, please consider leaving a review or at least a rating and telling a friend about it. If you don't enjoy it, then maybe let's keep that between us. As I mentioned in the open, the new members-only section is in fact live at badmovieswelove.captivate.fm/support, where you're going to get access to a bunch of goodies for only $5 a month. And I would absolutely love to hear from you, so if you have a bad movie you love and would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact me at badmovieswelove@theshice.com or badmovieswelove spelled LUV on Twitter and Instagram. And until next time, Take care, be well, stay safe, and have fun however you get your movies. I know you're out there somewhere, Rids. I love you.